Hello and welcome to Bring On the Medicine, a holistic healer summit. My name is Janae Robinson. I am the owner of Janae's Essentials in Burley, Idaho. I am a life coach, a yoga therapist, and the host of this summit. I am here with Bettina Evans, and Bettina is a spiritual advisor, 500-hour registered yoga teacher, certified embodiment coach, Reiki Master, Tarotist, and founder of SolEvolution. She has practiced for nearly 20 years. She completed her first yoga training in 2019 and has been teaching and expanding her knowledge of yoga through experience and continued education since. Bettina is also a certified Reiki Master practitioner and tarot reader. She has combined her knowledge of sciences, yoga, meditation, Reiki, tarot, and personal experience to bring a unique perspective to healing and allowing evolution to occur in one's life. She loves to share her knowledge and assist others in realizing their own potential and innate wisdom. Bettina is passionate about helping others achieve a better quality of life through esoteric and movement practices. So help me welcome Bettina. Hi.
Thank you.
That was a mouthful.
Yeah, it was. Wow. I'm like, oh, I do all those things. What?
I know, isn't that kind of an amazing thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, some great life experience.
Yeah.
And
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I hope that we can touch on a lot of this. I know that the focus that I really wanted to take you in was your tarot readings. That's how I got to know you. But feel free to interject anything that you want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I was like, sometimes you think about all the I think we have the tendency to think, oh, I haven't done that much. But then when you like hear it, you're like, especially you saying it, because like, you know, you know that you do it, but when you hear somebody else, you're like, oh, it's real. I do those things.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, it's like that's me. That is, oh yeah, oh, and it keeps
Mhm.
going. That is me.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. I think that when we follow our passions, a lot of times we're really not thinking too much about it, and then it does create this accumulation, this fullness of who we really are and how we show up, and that's where the medicine evolves and the wisdom evolves in our life. And today's the first time that I've actually talked to Bettina. I've been following her for quite a few years. I love watching her Instagram and I love her tarot readings. They're always right on for me. And so I wanted to hear about your love of tarot and, what drew you to the cards.
Um, so this is a little bit of a long-winded story because I actually had never planned on becoming a tarot reader, never really sought out tarot cards, but there was the first tarot deck that I purchased from Powell Books in Portland. I took a trip to go see my brother down there, and he was like, we got to go to this bookstore. And we were with a couple other people, and everybody was picking out books. And I was like, how do I not find a book in a bookstore? I always like, I love books. I have a million books, but nothing was clicking for me. And then by that time, everybody was pretty much regathering and ready to go after like 2 hours in the store. And across the room there was like it's funny because like later I realized what happened, but like basically across the room I saw this artist that I had always loved, Alfonso Mucca. It's like Art Nouveau. A lot of people know his the Zodiac. It was like the cover of Linda Goodman's Love Sign and Astrology book that I have had. I probably bought it like 5 different times since I was a teenager because I love that book so much. But the art stood out to me, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's an art book. So I went over and I realized it was a tarot deck that was like behind lock and key in a case. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to buy this tarot deck because I love the art so much. And that was like back in 2017. That was the first tarot deck that I got. And I didn't really have any intention with it at first. I would just pull cards for myself and like read the meaning, how we all do, how we all start. And come to realize and find out later, it was a really, really difficult deck to learn with. But I fell in love with it at that point, and then I actually got away from that deck and started to get into the Thoth deck because there was a local person who also reads tarot, but she only reads Thoth. So I purchased the Thoth deck. That was my second deck. And that's really where I started to take a deep dive. And that was probably also in 2017. But I learned with the Thoth. So, and I like sort of got away from her as a mentor because I just loved all the tarot decks because there's so much cool art and there's so many different ways to read tarot. And with the Thoth deck also, there's certain cards that are switched and there's a different way that it's put together. But that's there's also a lot of like a pretty rich history with tarot and some fun characters, but that was like my first shoe in was that deck and that like just being called to the art on it in the beginning.
Yeah, that's so interesting,
Yeah.
because what was open to the subconscious, it was this subconscious. That's what I look at it as. This was a spiritual encounter that.
Yes.
So I don't know if you want to speak to that a little bit.
Actually, I do, because the thing about it lighting up in the case for me was something that that I didn't dawn on me until years later was the fact that when I did start reading for other people, one of the things is I started to really make it more intuitive practice and get away from just the learning the cards was that when I started to actually read for people, because I would go around my house and I would be like, what does this person need? And spirit literally, this is the way spirit gives me messages. It lights things up for me. And even when I'm looking at a tarot spread, something will like, it's almost like it has a flashlight on it or something. And I was like, this is the main message, you know? The other things are like supporting cards or whatever, but this is the thing right here. And like even I can glance at anything and it's almost like it sparks up for me. And I think that that happens to a lot of people and we're just not conscious of it because yeah, after in hindsight is when I realized that it's like, why did it light up? Because it was like literally across the room. It was behind other tarot decks. And I was like, it was just like a spotlight was there. And I was just immediately drawn to it. And that's still how things sort of like stick out to me. It's like spirit, there's the spotlight. That's the thing, you know, just a
Yeah,
funny thing to
that's
think
what
about.
happens to me when I do Reiki is
Yeah.
all of a sudden things will start talking to me
Mhm.
even the day before or a couple days before. I'll just be walking by and something is just like screaming at me that
Yep.
this needs to come to this person. And I'm like, okay. Sometimes it's even a name in
Mhm.
my brain or a physical, like a feather or a certain oil or something like that. So I have experienced that with my Reiki, but not so much decks. So
Mhm.
I love that. I think that's
Yeah. It's actually probably in all aspects of your life. You know what? Speaking of Reiki, you know
yeah,
what? Sometimes before I meet with somebody and we're gonna do a session, it usually almost always happens the day of, or like even like an hour or two before, where I sometimes will have physical ailments. Like I'll have a pounding headache or like, like achy shoulder or something like that. And then when I'm in session with somebody, it will, first of all, when I'm done with the session, it releases immediately, or when the session starts, it's gone immediately. And that's how I know it was not mine. I will
yeah,
literally feel their element. And that was another weird thing that probably took me about a year of doing like energetic work before I figured it out. Yeah.
yeah. It's so interesting the connections that um, that the universe really wants to push through, but
Hmm.
it needs to have a listener. It needs to have somebody that's willing to get quiet with themselves, to be able to listen, to be able to piece those things together. And I
Hmm.
think that it's kind of gotten a bad rap with the word woo woo, right? It's like, oh, that's just so woo woo. And but no, it's spiritual, and it's a deep listening, it's a deep knowing, it's a deep willingness to be the messenger. And I've had things too where I've literally heard things, and I decided not to share it because I'm like, oh, this is part of, like, I do a stack with my Reiki of different things that I've done a ritual with. And so I have these words attached to it. And then within it are all the rituals, so that when I want to turn that on, I just say those words and that whole stack comes to life. I don't have to do each ritual every single time.
Wow.
And so I keep thinking, oh, that was just in my stack, that's just something in my stack. And then all of a sudden, I'll see like a dark cloud or something, and they'll say, oh, well, this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the message from my stack. This is the message from this person. And I've learned, do not stay quiet, no matter how weird it sounds to you. And I'm sure that you might find that with the cards too. Like, you're like, am I really supposed to say this? And then it's like, don't stay quiet. You are the messenger. Trust yourself in the message.
Right along those same lines, it's actually, if you don't say something that or do something that you've been like sort of guided to do, I almost feel like my spirit guides at least take it almost like as a disrespect, like, oh, you don't want the messages then. You're not going to do that then. And it'll actually turn off. So if I'm not in alignment, then I actually could potentially like dampen the gift of like continuity and like communication with that. But and also I would say in the beginning stages when I first started, because during COVID is when I started to actually charge money for readings, and sometimes it would take me like I would spend all day preparing my energy to do a reading for somebody. And I used to record like private YouTube videos and then send them like the private link so they weren't in person. And so when doing it that way, you have absolutely no feedback in the moment. And I remember there were some times that I would do readings that I would just get like emotional and like weird shit would happen. And I would be like, I don't like, why is this coming in? Or like I remember one reading that I did that was really profound that I was like, wow, this is a really harsh energy. And it was somebody that I saw on social media as somebody that was just like living the dream, you know what I mean? And I was like, what the fuck is going on? But I delivered what was coming in, and they came back with like, wow, you couldn't have been more accurate. And it was just like, for me, it sucks that it was like such a like, not a good reading, but it was a good reading because it was what they needed to hear. And like, I was honored to experience that because I was like, holy fuck, it was just like huge confirmation about like, this is the real deal. Like, you are a channel, you are a conduit for healing other people and like delivering messages that they're not hearing themselves. So it was it was kind of a profound moment for me. It was one of the first readings that I did. So,
Yeah. And to have that confirmation,
yeah,
it really does help us with our confidence
yeah.
and to keep going. And what I say is that the cards never lie. The cards do not lie. They don't. And so when you can finally say, hey, this is what's coming to me, this is what they're telling me, the person may not even accept it or receive it because they may not be quite ready for it, or maybe it will come later. Like, we don't know when people are going to have their aha moments, or if there's some resistance that is happening. And so I just find, like, I don't know, I find them so exciting. And I do have resistance in some ways, but I'm also very open to the truth and seeing, like, okay, what is it? And sometimes it's a little bit scary. I did a reading one time every month for a year. Like in January, I did this whole reading for the year, and it scared the crap out of me because everything, like, all this stuff was happening. And December's reading was the Tower card. And no, I think it was November's reading was the Tower card, and then December was like the Devil card. And
Yeah.
I was like, my whole life's gonna fall apart.
Yeah.
What's gonna
Yeah.
happen? And that year, my husband had a grand mal seizure in our bathroom. I had to give him CPR. He turned blue, and I had to call 911. So I think that was when the tower fell, and then he ended
Right.
up losing his job. It was before 2020, and so it was like, but when we I don't think I was ready for something quite like that. And the deck that I used was a deck that I kept private. It was my personal deck. I never used it on anyone else but myself.
Mm,
And so, there's power in there. And
yeah.
so, but I think that's what I like when somebody else reads my cards. I feel like there's a little bit of a buffer, and
Mhm.
it's not just me with myself, the
I get it.
dirty, downright,
Yeah.
exposure.
Yeah.
So,
It's hard to read for yourself
yeah.
because it's hard to like not sugarcoat things, I guess, or like you have your own idea of what you want, so then it's hard not to read it a certain type of way when that's not necessarily the correct message. So I
Yeah,
totally get that.
I think about the client that you were talking about. If she had done that herself, she
Mhm.
may not have really gotten the message, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
And so, but because it came from you, and she's probably sitting there going, she has no idea about
Yeah,
what's happening in my life. And it's where we couldn't make it up if we wanted to.
correct.
And so I do like it when other people read cards for me.
I wouldn't have wanted to make that up. So it's kind of funny, but it's kind of like the way things fall out and come together. And it's so funny too when people come to me and they say they want one thing and then like, well, the cards are actually saying that you want this other thing. So, or like this, I know you say you don't want to know about relationships and maybe you want to focus on career, but that's not where the energy is being drawn. Like it's all about your relationships right now. Or some readings are all about just you and it's like time to only focus on you, whereas like other readings will have other people come in and all these other energies where it's like you're more like you're being called to be more in your community or like in leadership or whatever the case may be, but every reading has the potential to be so extremely different depending on what comes up. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I have a couple of questions that are kind of going through my head. I want to know if you have a favorite card, but then also we're kind of talking about where these cards can take us. And I know that you do astrology readings.
Mhm.
Like I'm a Capricorn, and all of this kind of stuff. And so, do you have a favorite card? Do you have a favorite sign? And kind of
Okay,
have
so
fun with that. Kind of have fun
eh,
with that.
yes. So, I would say that my favorite card is probably the strength card. Immediately when I saw that question, I was like, probably the strength card. And that is Leo's Major Arcana card. But the thing that I love about the Strength card is it's really a card about overcoming the self because it's about your inner strength and overcoming the beast within. And to tame that beast, you have to sit with it and do the practices day in and day out to like master having that power over the self. Because it's also the other aspect of that is that it's about leading with love and that has to start with you. And discipline is one of the highest forms of self-love that there is. I believe that. And I think that the strength card is a card that highlights that for me. So that's probably my
Like
favorite
I
card.
feel like you're speaking directly to me, because I think I'm Leo rising.
Mhm.
And so, and I am working with that beast within, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh gosh. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I've been doing a little twist on the word discipline, and I've been changing it to devotion.
Ooh,
And
love
so
that.
I love to just pass that on to you, because
You know
that's
what?
another aspect of the card, right?
Yes, I do love that because I will say one thing that sometimes I don't like to use the word discipline just because I feel like it has a negative connotation, but it's like actually it's very powerful to be disciplined. And discipline doesn't need to be like restriction and like all this, you know what I mean? Like so harsh, so brutal. And I think that's sort of the energy that's tied to it, which is why I think devotion is a nice substitute.
Yeah, and it just gives you another facet, because sometimes we do need that word discipline, but sometimes we need to portray devotion, because it does make anyone that I've told that to, that has been my word of the year. This is the second year that I've chosen in a row that
Yeah.
devotion is my word of the year. And it does make you stop. It makes you take a breath and go, oh, like, why am I so hard on myself?
Mhm.
At least that, and so sometimes we need to be hard on ourselves and we need that discipline and we need to light the fire. But then
Mhm.
sometimes we need to come in a little bit softer and with a different focus. So
Yeah, and I think devotion to me sounds it gives it more of like the freedom of choice of like I'm really choosing this because I am devoted to it, you
yeah,
know.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
I would preface that besides the strength card, my other two cards are my major arcana cards that are associated with Taurus and which are the Hierophant and the Empress. And when you pull a card, like your own card in a reading, so Capricorn is the devil card. You know
Oh,
that, right?
okay, but no,
Capricorn's major arcana card is the devil. So it's
okay.
funny that you said like in December you pulled and your husband had this accident. So now all of a sudden the devil can mean a couple different things to me. Just a little sidebar real quick into that because one, if you're pulling it for yourself, sometimes that shows you in a position of power and strength if you're pulling your card. So I love it when I pull the Hierophant or the Empress for myself because it tells me like I'm in my power, I'm in my purpose right now. So I don't know if you can reflect back on what was happening, but probably you had to step up in a lot of ways and be in your purpose if your husband was going through these health things and also probably a lot of financial difficulties. So you kind of had to step up and be in your power. So the devil isn't, I think a lot of people view the devil as like sort of a negative card for that reason. But as a Capricorn, I don't think it's a negative card to pull. And I don't feel like it's a negative card at all because the devil to me is almost like a test if you learn the lesson before. Because what card comes before the devil is the Temperance card. And the Temperance card is basically when you have overcome the outside world, overcome your internal world, and the devil is the first test to the spiritual realm. So he's
Wow.
the first test. Did you learn everything from all those lessons before? Because now you're being faced with the devil. And are you going to pass that test? Because temperance is about patience and moderation. Devil is indulgence. Devil is all the things that we need. Like you have to eat, you have to drink, right? But are you overindulging in that? We need relationships, but are they tiptoeing into codependence? And like, so that's what the devil is about, calling into question or like something for you to evaluate, which I think for me, that's what tarot is like self-reflection and evaluation. So but yeah.
Yeah,
So
so when your cards come up, I didn't realize that there
yeah,
were cards for each of the signs. And,
not all of the major arcana cards have astrological association, but all of the signs do have different cards associated with them. Yeah. And some signs have more than one card associated with it because each card has a planet associated with it, basically is how that works. So the Empress is a Venusian Venus card, and Venus rules Taurus and Libra, which is why that's there. So yeah, but Libra also has the Justice cards, which is the balancing scales. So yeah,
yeah,
I could go on and on about it.
I think that the cards astrology people we are so multifaceted. I keep using that term that yeah, it's like we have to have a lot of stuff
Yeah.
because there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of
Yeah.
stuff going on in life.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff going on in the stars and the energies and all of that.
Mhm.
So do you have a favorite sign? Because
Oh, yeah.
you do these readings for, the month and the
Yeah.
signs. And so who are your little secret favorites in the world?
Oh my gosh. This is so funny. Well, I would say, and also there's different, every sign has like its good and its bad qualities, right? But I would say immediately when I saw this question, I thought Scorpio. And the reason is because one, my favorite person is my granddaughter. Um, and she's a little baby Scorpio. And I find that Scorpios, as a Taurus, Scorpios are exact opposite of Taurus. me being a Taurus, you have opposite energy, right? And also I have a lot of favorites, to be honest. And and then there's some signs that I have trouble with, which one of my very good close friends is a sign that has fucked me over in other people, but you can't like judge everybody off sign. But when you asked the question, a Scorpio immediately came to mind because there are a lot of Scorpios that I really admire as a Taurus because Tauruses, we're so headstrong and dedicated and we'll work and work and work and we won't let shit go and we'll want to hang on to everything and we don't want things to change. And Scorpios are like, wow, I built all this up for fucking 10 years and I will burn it down and like move on to the next thing and I'll just rebuild it and that's the way it is. And they can just walk away from something and so it's like this opposite energy of my own that I have so much admiration for, I think. So that's why Scorpio for me, and that doesn't mean that I like every Scorpio necessarily, and that because I mean, you have 12 signs in the zodiac, but then you have your whole natal chart, and then that has so many different aspects into it. And then all the aspects are in different locations, planetary placements, and all the things. So, like, we are all so individual. But in a nutshell, I think Scorpios, the way that they handle things, and they'll just break things down, and it seems like they can just be in the world seamlessly. I don't know.
I'm married to a Scorpio,
Yeah.
so it's they are interesting and they are very intriguing as well.
Yeah.
They they're a little mysterious and
I was gonna say there are some things that are annoying about them, how they always have to they're so secretive, but it's like they're reading a book. Like it's
yeah,
not that mysterious.
yeah, true. That's true. Well, and what has intrigued you about some of your readings or the cards? There are these intriguing things that do happen. What are they teaching you?
Mm. Uh, when I do readings, it's so funny because the magic of it never gets old, I think is one of the things I would say. Sometimes when you are like playing with the spirit world and stuff, you think that it gets mundane. And I think that it can, where it's like, oh, you don't talk to your spirit guides? Like, duh. Like that's the thing I do all the time. Or like just like that because you get kind of used to it, so it's dampened. But every once in a while there will be something where I'm just so touched. And I think just it's I'm still surprised and shocked, but I don't know if I'm necessarily answering the question just because like surprises do still happen frequently and it's like it still feels magical to me when something is like so aligned or something comes in so clear or when I'm having an experience that I'm like this is crazy. Can I just say actually another little sidebar. Before this earlier today, my roommate has kind of been going through something. And I was getting ready for this interview. Like this is maybe 30 minutes before we hopped on the call. Um, she actually is going to meet somebody to have a difficult conversation. And it was almost like some message that she wasn't hearing. She burned some Palo Santo and sat in meditation for a little bit. And like the second that I smelled it, there was a pretty powerful message that came in that I was not gonna. I thought she might have already left, but I went and saw that she was there. She started talking to me about stuff, and I was like, oh, fuck, I have to tell her this thing. I started crying out of nowhere when I was delivering the message. And I'm like, I don't know why I'm crying all of a sudden, where it was like such this emotional weight that I was like, I know for her, that's probably her emotion that she's holding in right now and it just like bleh, came out of me. And that's what happens a lot in like my experience with healing in general. But I know that everybody has their own thing. But I think that it actually is more common than people realize to have that.
I think so too. And I do feel that there are touching moments and
Hmm.
that when we can portray a message with emotion,
Hmm.
um, especially because, you know, we were talking earlier about how when you're in person, things are different when you're in person than when you're online together. There's the energy of that being in person, and emotions, they do radiate out through us, and our heart does have a magnetic energy. And
Yeah.
so it does create an atmosphere of connection, of slowing down, and of you know, really just like the beauty of spirituality, that yeah, sometimes we have to do hard things, but she's not
Mhm.
alone. She's not
Yeah.
al- she was in there meditating alone, she was burning her palo santo alone, and then all of a sudden you come walking in, right,
Yeah.
with a
Yeah.
metaphor. Like, she didn't know
Yeah.
that that was coming.
Yeah.
To me, that is intriguing. It's like, whoa, you know, spirit is, it's everywhere.
Mhm. Yeah.
So that,
Whether or not you're tapping into it or not, it's there. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So I wanted to shift gears a little bit, and I know that you had traveled. Did you say a year and a half that you traveled, or a
For
year?
about a year and a half, um we came home for about 2 months and then left again. So, like, came home for a visit and then went back at it.
And so what prompted that? And you know, what was like one of the favorite places that you went, and how did that, if it did, I'm assuming every experience does seep into us as far as our coaching and who we are and our teaching.
So, a lot happened in that time, but, so I would say my favorite country didn't happen necessarily during that time. I would say there's two of my favorite places, Iceland and the Canary Islands, are probably my top two places. Iceland is just so magical if you haven't like looked at it at all. It's freaking amazing. Me and my ex-husband cycled around Iceland, and that was like probably the best trip ever. We were there for 35 days and slept
Awesome.
outside 33 of the 35 days. And the weather in Iceland is wild. So it was very difficult, like physically and mentally, and it was quite an experience. And like beautiful, beautiful country. Um, the traveling for a year and a half was because, which earlier we talked about meditation and stuff and how like the power of manifestation. I think like I did a lot of meditating and manifesting, and I was feeling very stuck and trapped in my life. So of course I wanted to travel, and then ended up, so, sidebar, I'm not gonna expand on it too much, but I've been on and off with the same person for 25 years, and we like kind of got married really quickly in our third relationship. And then he does archaeology, so then we went traveling and gotta do like I got to participate in archaeological digs and like all these cool places. We were in Cyprus, Morocco, the country of Georgia, Armenia, Turkey, Portugal, Spain, and I don't know. That's probably that might be it. I don't know. But we got around and it was really fun and exciting, but there wasn't like necessarily any spiritual purpose to it at the time. It was just like having one of the things that I was manifesting in my meditations the year before was having multiple different experiences, and I definitely did. Yeah.
Yeah, and well, it's interesting too, because I wonder, are you able to draw back on any of those experiences and create a spiritual type of connection, or even remember ritual or different ways of living in those places that.
Oh, 100%. And also, I had to, because also as a fixed earth sign, Taurus is the fixed of all the signs. Like, we don't like change, like, we're unmovable. Like, all those things are so true. So, to be with this person that's like, shoop, like a whirlwind, and we're going all around, and I'm in constant change and flux, and like having to return to my practices and my rituals and learning how to take those on the road and learning how to be at home in my own body. So it doesn't matter where in the whole planet I am, my body is my home. And that was like my mantra when I was traveling. So really taking care of this vessel was so important to me. And we actually broke up while we were on the road,
Oh,
and ended up getting a divorce. So then I was by myself in another country, like away from family, away from a lot of support. And it was this process of being completely stripped of everything because before we left, I gave up my place that I loved near the beach. I sold my car. I had no, all my shit was in storage. I sold most of my stuff. Not most of it, but a lot of it. As you can imagine, if you're not planning on coming back, anytime. So it was really just being completely fucking stripped of everything. And then like, okay, who am I gonna, and like really being in a dark place and like having to come back from that and just regain everything, like I just focused solely on myself. And I ended up, like after he left, he went on another archaeological project, which he was leading. And I waited for about 2 months before I was like, it's over. This man just left you in another country. You know what I mean? So I ended up getting a job in Spain in the Canary Islands for 3 months. I taught yoga at a co-living space, and it was incredibly healing because he was like, just go home, just go home. And I was like, fuck no, I'm not going home, motherfucker. What? So I can, sorry to be so passionate, but like, I was like, I'm not going to go home to deal with all this heat and like have people ask me about like what happened and have to explain to everybody. No, I need time to heal. And just like magic, this opportunity unfolded for me to go to the Canary Islands, teach yoga for 3 months, where I was this anonymous person and I got to decide who the fuck I was. And in that, actually, that's where I started to do my embodiment coaching. And I got way more into my yoga practice because I was getting to teach, had the opportunity to do that 5 days a week. And it was just like such a cool, fun environment. So I just loved it. And I appreciate that time so much. And also, it's beautiful there. So,
yeah, yeah. Well, that is really interesting, and I kind of want to take a moment here to take a breath,
mhm,
um, and also really speak to anybody that's watching this, because when someone goes through an experience where they are stripped to nothing,
mhm,
and I have been through one of those experiences myself. So you're sitting here with two women who have experienced literally, um, where I was at, I couldn't even lift my head up off the floor. I was so stripped. I was devoid of energy. I did not know what I was going to do. And I wasn't in a foreign country, but I was in a different state with no
mhm,
transportation. And so here you are in a foreign country, it's like no place to go home to.
mhm.
Um, and it takes an incredible amount of strength. I can see why the strength card is one of your favorite
Oh,
cards,
yeah. Yeah.
because it takes an incredible amount of strength, first of all, just to pick up your head off the floor, just
Mhm,
to wrap your head around what happened. But you do become a different person. When I came back, and I want to know, like, when you came back, were people like, you're different? You know,
oh, yeah.
I knew the minute I saw you that you were not the same.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's like I have a whole new appreciation for who you are, Bettina, because to get through something like that, and it's the hardest thing to explain to someone. They don't really get it. Like
Yeah.
they don't know what it's like to really be nothing, to have nothing,
Mhm.
and you don't know what side is up, and you're triggered, and you know you don't know
Yeah.
what you're going to do. But to
Oh,
be
yeah.
able to pull it together, right, to pull it together, that's the magic, that's the healing, that's the medicine. um and so when you have a coach like that,
Mhm.
it's like I'm positive that you take people to depths that they did not think that they could get into.
Yeah, that is probably true. I can be kind
That's
of intense.
Yeah, I
But
just wanted to stop and
yeah,
you know and
yeah,
honor that experience because not everybody goes through that. Not everybody goes through that. A lot of people do,
yeah.
you know, I'm not saying that people don't.
I
Um,
mean, I think people always have like their own levels of stuff, and it doesn't need to be that extreme for it to feel that extreme. You know what I mean? Because I had already been through some really dark times in my life before that. That's probably just the most recent, most darkest, and where it's like completely everything is like a hit in every aspect of my life. You know what I mean? But it's actually in hindsight was such a gift because I also did have all these experiences and I did learn how in that process of like it, and this is a message to young people, especially that maybe are like suicidal, have suicidal ideation and stuff. It's like the older you get, the more you go through, even when you're fucking crumpled in a wreck, it's like, just take that first fucking step. Because you've been downward on this downward spiral, and it's like the moment you decide, I'm fucking done with this, because I think there's some value in sitting in pain, to be honest. Like, and you got to process it. The only way is through, right? But when you decide, today's the last day that I'm going to allow myself to feel like this shitty. And then you start to, I don't know, like, and it's funny because it can start the most simplest way. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to make sure and drink enough water today because I care enough about myself to do that and I deserve it. I'm going to like go and watch the sunset for myself because this body deserves to get that. You know what I mean? To be witness to that. So it's just it doesn't have to be complicated. And I think people complicate healing so much sometimes where it can be a very simple things
and
to
that's really important
change
to know.
the momentum. Yeah.
Yeah, that is important to know. I know that when I could not lift my head up off the floor, I thought that music would help me, but I couldn't even focus on music. And I just started oming. And
Mm,
all that I did, I was like, I have got to change my energy. I have got to get out of this place, but I can't even move. And so I just started to ohm. And but you know, that's that internal vibration
yes.
of change.
You
And
know
so
that is, sorry, I'll let you finish,
no,
but
that's
like
okay.
I'm giggling because it's like so relevant.
I want to hear. This is about you.
Well, oh, okay. Well, I would say it's so funny because when I work with somebody that has like, especially like a throat block, one of the things that I probably do on a daily basis is hum. And I know that it's like Om is a little bit different because it's a little has that spiritual sound to it, but just straight up and feeling the vibration like and like changing the tone and all that. Like what is happening to that stagnant energy that is in your throat is you're starting to break it up with those vibrations. And when people come to me with a throat chakra issue, or even if it comes up in the reading, like, hey, you're not asking for help, you're not communicating what your needs are and stuff like that, this is where I go. We're humming. And then humming can lead to, before I do readings, I've shared this like once or twice. I will be screaming like a favorite song that I know the lyrics to. Like my throat chakra is so open before I do a reading. I do a lot of like tapping and stuff like that. But humming is like a go-to of mine for sure. And like even in the morning, like I had a headache this morning, so I was like, just like that tone because you can feel the vibration even like in up in your third eye in your skull and down in your heart,
Yeah,
right?
you can take the vibration
Yeah.
wherever, like with bumblebee breath. My husband is a yogi as well, and he
Yeah.
loves to teach bumblebee breath. And he will do the same thing. You start to move that tone up and down, and it's that polyvagal toning, which is our nervous system. Because when you hit rock bottom and you don't know where you're going to go, you don't know what you're going to do, you're a little dysregulated.
Oh, 100%.
You're like a little dysregulated. And
Yeah.
when you can't lift your head up off the floor because you're so triggered and so dysregulated that you have to change your physiology. Like your
Yeah.
physiology has to be number one. And I'm the same way. I have on my phone, on my Spotify, I have what was termed to me a victory list of songs that put me in a victory mindset, that get me to jump up and down, to get
Yeah.
excited. And even when I'm wrong, I'm excited when I'm wrong, because now I get to be right. I get to get back on the right path. And
Hmm.
so um, I had talked about how that card reading kind of scared me a little bit, with the 12-month reading,
Yeah.
but I'm not scared anymore,
Yeah.
because one thing I heard is that the unknown is really, you're just facing yourself in the unknown. That's it. The unknown is just you in a different place.
Yeah.
So how scary are you to yourself? Like, get to know yourself.
Hmm.
And I did want to bring in, you talked about meditation, and it seems to be a passion of yours.
Yeah.
And so I want to talk about like the spiritual side of meditation for you, and what that is doing for you right now in life, and how that can help someone bring medicine into their life. Because a lot of people are intimidated by meditation.
Oh, yeah, that's true. First of all, meditation is not as scary as it seems. It's just and in the beginning, maybe set a timer for 2 minutes and just but to see. That's all you need to worry about in the beginning. If you want to allow things to get a little bit more involved, and then you can add other things or other aspects to it. And I have practiced a lot of different types of meditation, like silent, eyes open meditation. I prefer to sit. I've done, like, if I'm not feeling well or something, I will lay down for meditation, but most often I'm in a seated position, upright. And for me, it's essential. Like, not just for like my spiritual growth and well-being, but also just to be able to carry myself in life, because just like the strength card in that devotional practice, um, having that time and that openness to yourself is, and having that, like, the will, like, you're putting the mind in control of the body, because we're on autopilot a lot without even realizing it. So getting to pick out, there's like a quote, the Eat Love Pray movie, where he's like telling her, he's like, you need to pick out your mood like you pick out your clothes in the morning.
Yes.
And that's what it is. You know what I mean? It's like, you don't want to carry this negativity around with you all the time, because it's gonna really affect your whole life. And if you can just sit in silence for a little bit, it can change everything. It can help you slow down in moments of, because meditation, it isn't the practice of meditation necessarily. It's what, and just like in yoga, it's what you're bringing into the world, into your daily life now. So it's like, in traffic, maybe you're a little bit more patient rather than being impulsive in situations. It just like gives you a little energy to like slow down in a moment of, yeah, that you need to. That could be challenging, I guess, is the best way I could put it. And there's other things about manifestation and like connecting with your guides and opening up the space for that. And sometimes I've sat in meditation and I'm just sitting there and like my mind is going fucking crazy. And I'm like, I'm going to sit here. And those meditations seem like, oh, I had a shitty meditation or whatever. But those are actually the most powerful, that will set you up for success for the next meditation, where all of a sudden you are getting a message from your guides, or like you're having this new energy come in. And it's also a great lesson in non-attachment. But I mean, it depends on what your flavor is that you're trying to explore and deal with at that time, because I think meditation is, it can be very simple, and it is, but like it can open up this whole other world of different things where you can set more intention behind it. And like before you get into meditation, if you want to pray or set an intention for your meditation, you can do that if you make it more like a ceremonial thing. But like at the end of the day, just sit for like 2 to 5 minutes in the beginning and see what happens, and see if things change in your life at all, and then like maybe stop meditating and see what happens, and see how your mood shifts. And I don't know that it's for everybody. I
Yeah.
feel like it should be
I
because
think
I love it so much,
I,
but
I think that I love your advice on just starting with a short practice, because meditation, we feel like we're doing nothing, right?
Mhm.
It's like, well, this is a waste of time. I'm not doing anything. I'm just sitting here.
Right.
I like to do a gazing meditation where I will stare at like the doorknob, or a little knob on a piece of furniture or something,
Mhm.
or a distant flag. If
Yeah.
I'm sitting somewhere by an airport, there was this flag that was way out in the distance and it was orange. So I would just sit and look at this orange flag, and I would just set my timer. And sometimes I would pick up my phone, like, has it, did I miss my timer? Like, it has to have been more than 2 minutes.
Yeah, yeah,
But it's like, no, it's still ticking.
yeah.
But I think it is the practice of coming back.
Mhm.
We get distracted and then we come back. We get distracted and we come back. And it strengthens us in the way of coming back. So when
Mhm.
we are in traffic, we're coming back to the present moment,
Mhm.
and it's like, I'm okay. Like, I'm still okay. I'm still
Yeah.
on my way to work. I'm still on my way wherever it is. But I'm okay. And then we might get distracted again. But I feel that meditation is for everyone as well. But we have to start valuing the aspect of solitude.
Mhm.
We don't spend enough time in solitude
And stillness.
and
Yeah.
stillness. Yeah.
As you were talking, I thought about two things. One, um, I do a tarot course, and in it, I offer a meditation that is basically a meditation where you go into the card and you meet the card. You meet the because
Yeah.
that's a way to connect with your tarot deck. I don't know if you've ever, as you're talking about meditating with eyes open and staring at something, have you ever tried meditating with a mandala?
Um, I can't say that I have meditated. I know that when you look at a mandala, it's like, there's everything. And I
They come
actually
alive.
I'm going to do that, because I have I have a mandala in my office that's hanging there, but I haven't meditated with it. So
Yeah.
tell us about this. We want to know.
Uh, so like the mandala is actually like so you can stare into it and it moves and it's supposed to be like a wormhole, like a portal or something like that. So it just can also like you can go into it and maybe go somewhere else into a different timeline or something like that. So I would just urge you to play with that a little bit.
Yeah, get curious.
Um, but the other thing I was thinking about is when I was going through that really dark time in my life, one of the things that I started doing, which I did at a Dr. Joe Dispenza retreat, was he did a lot of walking meditations. Like every day we had there was a variety of walking meditations. And I didn't necessarily do it with his audio, but there was everybody knows who Ram Dass is. There's some music that Ram Dass has changed, and I remember one of the things that I would do. I would go. I was on the Black Sea in Georgia, and there's like this beautiful walkway along the Black Sea. So I'd be listening to this audio that's like, like we're all one. So then I remember there and there's a lot of people. So I'm in this meditative state where I'm walking and I'm just looking at every person like we're one. Yeah, I love you. We're one. And I'm just like praying at every person and sending all this like fucking good energy out as I'm listening to this music because it's like empowering me and I can just feel the power in my body like growing. And that was sort of like as I came out of it, but I mean, it took a while to get into that shift, but that was a huge meditation was a huge shift for me in my life many, many times. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
say.
For me, I got to where I would listen to Eat, Pray, Love, and she had talked about where there's a meditation where you don't move. So there might be a bee that lands on you,
Mhm.
or there's a dog that is trying to get your attention, but you literally are there just to ignore everything and allow things to happen. And how
Mhm.
difficult that actually is. It's very difficult to do that.
Yeah.
And even staring at something, because your minds can start to say, what are you doing? This is so silly. Why are you sitting here doing this? And you can talk yourself out of. But all of that is information, right? It tells us who we are. where our work lies in ourselves and the world. And it got to the point where I got to where I would click into the universe when I would meditate. I would sit and I would click in. And it was this weird feeling that I had never experienced before. But if I had stopped meditating, if I just thought, I don't have time for this, I don't,
Mhm.
whatever, but trying those different things, you find something that can connect you deeply to the universe. And it does turn into this really beautiful thing.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I definitely recommend meditation as well to everyone.
And also not ignoring those things when you do click in. You know what I mean? Because like some people are like, oh, and also like the when we were talking about things lighting up for you
Yep.
earlier, or
Yep.
like when you see things or hear things or experience things, one of the things that I think people do is they talk at themselves out of it, like, oh, that was just my imagination. And it's like, don't disrespect spirit that way. You know what I mean? Like, you had a moment, dude. Like, just honor that and be like, oh my God, thank you so much. Because I've had some wild shit happen in meditations and like that are I'm always like, oh shit, like I did a thing. Like, it's like, ooh, I touched it. I touched the divine or something, and it's so
Yeah.
fucking cool. But it
Yes.
does take sometimes it takes a while. And
Yeah.
it's far and few
And
between.
we all have different gifts, right? We all have different gifts. So some people hear things, some people taste things, some people smell things, some people touch things, some
Mhm.
people click in, and some people are just brutally honest, right? I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
we all have the way that we show up. And so yeah, that's interesting. And so speaking about how you show up, I really wanted to talk, this is probably the last question that we'll have time for,
Okay.
but today is the first time that I've actually spoken with Bettina. Like, I've followed her online. We were supposed to do a retreat together, so that's how I even saw her face. And I was connected to her, and she does have a very active Instagram with lots of videos. And what I had noticed was just this beautiful way that you are with your body. I feel like you're very accepting to your body. I love the clothes that you wear and how you show up with your body. And to me, it just screams confidence.
Mhm.
And so, have you always had confidence in your body, or like you're kind of laughing right now? So you might
No,
be thinking,
absolutely
wow, that's
not.
what you see. I
It's
don't know.
it's funny because I think like a lot of people in my life, a lot of my friends and stuff, that like that is one thing that I think people look at me and be like, "Damn, she's confident." And it's true. I think that like uh, in a lot of ways, even the way that I speak and the way that I carry myself, I know that that's the energy that I exude, but it's taken a lot of work for me to do that. And I think like it's still hard. I constantly have to overcome myself so much. But I think um when I first like because I think like so many young, especially young women, we just abuse our bodies and we take it for granted and like women, we always want to lose weight until we're old and then we want to gain weight because like like a lot people just like lose weight and they can't keep it on and things like that and just the way that we abuse our bodies and I think I just like every I just started really being like and even in my yoga practice part of when I was telling you I teach for like restorative or yin I have people look at their hands and their feet all the time and be like, God damn, I'm so thankful for these hands. These hands do so much work in the world and they've done so much and they have more to do. And like, oh my gosh, I'm so thankful for my feet. And I will literally go through and touch my body and thank it for like carrying my spirit in this world and like allowing me to do the work that I do. And our bodies work so hard and I think just to, not taking that for granted is part of what like loving my body and realizing like and building strength and I mean I love to be pretty physical and I think that it's really important also for my mood stability to like exercise and do yoga but like it builds my confidence so whether or not my body is like 10 pounds heavier or lighter it's like I still feel good when I move it. And I know that. And my body wants to move. And when I don't move, then all of a sudden I'm shaming my body and I'm shaming myself for the extra weight. And one day I'm feeling this low vibration about my body. And the next day I'm like, damn, she cute. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that it's just it's a struggle, but at the same time, it's like more turning it on its head of like, think about what your body does for you on a regular basis. This body has went to work to feed my family. This body has created a family. You know what I mean? Like it, and just like realizing how fucking magical you are in so many ways. Even my body is allowing me to voice what I'm saying right now. Like so thankful for my voice, so thankful for my eyes to see, like just being in gratitude for your physical, for the physical space that you take up and you're allowed to take up. And I think like that's more, I love that other people view me that way because I want them to feel that for themselves. And I love that maybe I inspire that in somebody else, whether or not they're feeling like a little like insecure about their body or like their weight, which I think is most people's issue. And I just don't care that much. I I do and I don't because I'm still judgmental about my stuff sometimes and I want to be fit and I want to look good. But it's like you always have to meet yourself where you're at and love yourself where you're at before you can make those big changes. If you like if I hated myself and I'm just like if I hated my body, all of a sudden I'm not exercising. I'm probably eating trashy food and like doing all these things. But like if I'm loving my body, I'm drinking enough water, I'm taking myself for walks, I'm going to work out just for the simple pleasure of doing it? It doesn't need to be always about losing weight or whatever. I know that it is sometimes, but it's not always about aesthetics, I guess.
Right. I love
Anyway.
that. I really love that. And I feel like maybe that Taurus energy, right? It is that physicality, that groundedness,
Mhm.
that earth, because our body is earth. And I think that when we deal with spiritual medicine and we have a lot of creativity, we can be way up here to where this just it's like dead weight. We're just dragging it around. And but what I see in you is I see this cohesiveness, this wholeness, this whole person. I don't just see your intelligence, I don't just see your spirituality. It's like I see all of you. And I feel like you're just such a beautiful person, how you betray your, not betray, portray
Yeah.
yourself, not betray, how you portray yourself. And so I just wanted to, that's something I really admire in you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
It's been, I remember when I was a kid, actually, it's like third degree weather where I grew up. And I remember being so ashamed that I was so ashamed of my legs that I never wore shorts all summer. And it's like third degree weather. And I remember like I would never want to show my feet because my dad would call me Flintstone feet and just like being so self-conscious. And my grandpa one time he's like, "What's all that?" and like pokes my stomach and shit. Like we have so many like body image things in our society. We're just like thrown so much shit all the time that it's just like the only person that matters about being satisfied is you? And it's
Yeah,
like if I feel comfortable and good on this, like this is what I'm gonna wear.
yeah,
And like sometimes when I see somebody that is like overweight or something and they're going for a walk or something, I've heard people make fun like, oh, blah blah blah. And I'm like, I literally want to honk my horn and be like, yeah, get it. Because I know for me it was hard to do. Like
yeah,
like going to work out sometimes it's like that's I know I'm gonna feel better after, but
yeah.
sometimes getting there is not the easy thing.
Yeah, because somebody's going to see me at the gym, right? They're going to see that I don't know how to use this equipment, or they're going to
Yeah,
see that I hardly have any weights on there and that
yeah,
I'm kind of weak.
yeah.
But you're right. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. And I think that is the medicine that you offer is, just really working on the complete package of an individual.
Dude, I love it when people have breakthroughs, and I don't care if it's in a tarot reading, in a yoga class, like when people are doing, I have a 70-year-old a woman that comes to my class and she has for years. She's like my biggest fan. Love that lady. But the other day, it's like, and she's always so willing to try something new if I coach her into it, you know? And I like respect and love that so much about her that at 71, she is still doing new and novel movements in my class. And that's fucking special.
It
Because,
really is.
yeah, I think it's amazing. And like having that flexibility in mind, that is like hashtag goals for myself. She inspires me constantly.
Yes, for sure.
Anyway.
Well, how can people get a hold of you? Like here, you've just opened up yourself, and
Oh yeah.
it's like, I know that there's somebody out there saying she's my girl. How
Oh.
can somebody find you?
So I have a website, SolEvolution.net, and you can sign up for my email list. I'm also on Instagram, blessed_empress_tarot, blessed empress tarot. Um, yeah, and I actually love it when people message me about things, questions. Like I love engagement, to be honest, like in any type of way. So, right now I'm like focusing on like doing my 5-week tarot course where it's like it's intuitive tarot. So, yeah, working with different cards, but also a huge aspect of that is tapping into your intuition.
And
So.
that's on your website, your tarot
The
work.
tarot course
Yeah.
it's not on my website, but I can send all the information if someone signs up for my email list, or if they just DM me, then I can send them all the information for that. But I don't know if this will be out in time because it's actually starting March
Uh,
23rd, I believe.
so hopefully you'll have another one, right?
Yeah, yeah. I try and do one like once a year.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, it has been a pleasure. I'm really happy that you wanted to come on and share this experience. And I loved getting to know you. I love your stories. I love who you are. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Janae.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure, and I was so thankful for the conversation before and during.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for sure.
hopefully more to come.
I
Yeah.
think so too. Well, we can say goodbye to everybody. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.